Welcome to Africa Untold. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine an army of thousands, but not men, women, fierce, disciplined, fearless, each one trained to fight, kill, and die for her kingdom. This was not a myth. This was not a fantasy. This was the Amazons of Dahomey, Africa's all-female warriors who shook empires and defied invaders. Today, we uncover the untold story of these warrior queens, hidden in shadows, yet carved into Africa's proud history, long before Europeans wrote about them. The Kingdom of Dahomey stood as a rising power in West Africa. Located in present-day Benin, Dahomey was surrounded by rival states, slave raids, and endless wars. To survive, Dahomey needed not just soldiers, it needed an unbreakable army. And from this crucible of war, the world's only state-sponsored all-female military was born. The exact origins are wrapped in mystery. Some legends say the first women warriors were hunters who defended the palace when men were away. Others claim they were palace guards, chosen for their strength, discipline, and loyalty. But by the early 18th century, these women were no longer bodyguards. They were soldiers. They trained with muskets, spears, and machetes. They marched in perfect unison, and soon they would be feared across West Africa. Every woman who joined this army took an oath to never marry, never have children. Their only husband was the king. Their only family was the army. This gave them absolute loyalty to the throne, no divided loyalties, no distractions. In battle, they fought with a ferocity that shocked their enemies. One French officer later wrote, "They flung themselves on death as if it were a lover." Life as an Amazon was not easy. They trained like no other army in Africa. They learned to climb walls lined with thorny acacia branches. They practiced beheading prisoners in a single stroke. They marched for days under the burning sun with little food or water. The goal was clear: to kill fear itself. By the end of training, an Amazon was not just a soldier, she was a weapon. By the mid-1700s, the Amazons fought alongside male regiments in wars of expansion. They captured territory, defended borders, and struck fear into enemies. Witnesses described their courage. Where men hesitated, the Amazons charged. Where men broke ranks, the Amazons held the line. This was more than war. This was revolution, women proving they could fight, lead, and win. In the early 19th century, King Gezo, 1818 to 1859, transformed Dahomey into a true military kingdom, and at the heart of his army were the Amazons. He expanded their numbers to thousands. Some estimates say up to 6,000 women warriors stood ready to fight. They were organized into regiments, gunners, archers, hunters, and shock troops. The Amazons were no longer just part of the army. They were the army. News of the Amazons spread across Africa and into Europe. Travelers wrote of their discipline, their silence, their iron will. To Dahomey's enemies, they were a nightmare. To Dahomey's people, they were protectors. To the king, they were his most loyal servants. One European visitor wrote in awe, "These women are the terror of all the surrounding nations. No army can withstand them." But this was only the beginning, for the Amazons would soon face their greatest challenge: European empires armed with modern guns and greed for conquest. The Amazons were not a chaotic mob of fighters. They were organized with military precision: hunters gabeto, elite scouts skilled in the forests, gunners armed with muskets, known for their deadly aim, bladeswomen, specialists with machetes and swords, elephant hunters, legendary for their fearlessness. Each regiment had its own commanders, battle chants, and strategies, discipline, hierarchy, and unity. This was the key to their power. When not at war, the Amazons lived inside the royal palace grounds. Their days were filled with physical training at dawn, weapons drills in the afternoon, guard duty for the king and the capital. They were forbidden from selling in markets or living as ordinary women. Instead, they became symbols of Dahomey's strength, respected, feared, admired. The enemy stands in formation, muskets loaded, hearts steady, or so they think. Then suddenly, a piercing scream rips through the air. Not one, but hundreds. The ground trembles under the march of women, the Dahomey Amazons. They are the first wave, the shock troops, chosen to break enemy lines. Muskets blaze, smoke fills the air. Then, with long knives and heavy clubs, they charge into the chaos. At close range, their eyes burn with fury. They slash, they strike, they wrestle foes to the ground. Enemies later whispered that their war cries alone were enough to freeze blood in the veins. And yes, their warfare was brutal. Heads severed, carried back as trophies. Captives dragged alive to the capital, destined for sacrifice and ceremonies of power. But remember, this was a violent age. The Dahomey Amazons spoke the language of power the world understood: courage, violence, and fear. And in that language, they were unmatched. In the 19th century, Dahomey clashed with the powerful Yoruba states to the east. The Amazons marched in these campaigns, capturing towns and villages. They proved nearly unstoppable. But the wars also brought heavy casualties, showing that even the fiercest warriors could bleed. These battles cemented their reputation. Across West Africa, by the mid-1800s, a new enemy appeared: Europe. The French sought to control West Africa for its wealth and trade, and Dahomey stood in their way. The Amazons, who had fought African rivals for generations, now faced modern rifles, cannons, and artillery. The stage was set for one of history's most unequal battles. The First War with France, 1890, tested the Amazons' courage. Eyewitnesses wrote of them charging fearlessly into gunfire, closing ranks, even as bullets cut them down. French commanders admitted, "Never have I seen such bravery in the face of certain death." But bravery alone could not match European firepower. By the Second War, 1892 to 1894, the Amazons were devastated. Thousands died. The kingdom of Dahomey fell, and with it, the era of the Amazons ended. After their defeat, the French tried to erase the Amazons from memory. They called them curiosities, savages, relics of a backward Africa. Their achievements were minimized in European history books, but among the people of Benin, their stories lived on in songs, in oral history, in memory. They were not monsters. They were heroes who fought for their land until the very end. Today, the Amazons are remembered as pioneers, women who broke every boundary. In Benin, they are honored in museums and festivals. In popular culture, they inspired the Dora Milaje of Marvel's Black Panther and the film The Woman King. In history, they remind us that women were not just queens or mothers. They were warriors, generals, and leaders. The Dahomey Amazons stood as proof that courage knows no gender. Their blood was spilled, but their legacy still roars like a battle cry across Africa. For centuries, the world tried to erase them, but history cannot forget the women who became fire, steel, and thunder. The Dahomey Amazons were not just warriors. They were Africa's defiance, written in blood and courage. This is their story. This is Africa Untold.